We are back. Welcome back, everyone, to another video of mine. And today I'm gonna doing and making a retrospective review, and that's going to be 1976 Rocky. Yeah, the original Rocky that Sylvester Stallone played in it. It's time that I'm keep continue doing the Rocky films, and I'm gonna review all six Rocky films. And I'm gonna do with the first one, which is gonna be my retrospective review. And like I said, the first one is the best Rocky film. Everyone knows that it's people's favorite film. It's a masterpiece. It's Sylvester Stallone's best film. It's for those who says that he can't act, watch Rocky, watch First Blood. But Rocky is actually one of my personal favorite movies, especially boxing film, which Sylvester Stallone plays on it. And like I said, a lot of people says that Rocky is a love story or it's a fairy tale, which I disagree. I think it's actually a sports boxing drama film, but it works, and it's definitely one of the best films. And Rocky 1976 will be my third favorite Rocky film. It won three. It was actually nominated for three Academy Awards. For best, I think was for best picture, best sound, best editing, best actor, best actress, best leading actor, best supporting actor, best supporting actress, best supporting actor. Of course, Burgess Meredith, Burt Young, Talia Shire, Sylvester Stallone, they all actually won actually Academy Award. It was nominated for three Academy Awards, three Oscars this movie won. This movie was written in 3 days by Sylvester Stallone after he saw the fight between Muhammad Ali and Chuck Webner. I think was around 1975. Also, Sylvester Stallone's dogs is in this movie. Butkus, that was actually Butkus Stallone, the dog. Butkus Stallone is in this movie. Back in the 70s, Sylvester Stallone was an unknown actor, and he was really poor, and he was almost living now. Actually, he was living on the streets because I think he was kicked out of the apartment. He was alone. He was living in the streets, and he got his first gig I think he took the role for the in that porn film, The Italian Stallion, or more the party at the Kitty and the Stat. I think it was something like that title. I reviewed that movie last year, and I actually liked it. I'm the only one that liked it. But Sylvester Stallone said that he rather choose that role instead robbing someone, because he was really hungry. He was living on the streets during the winter, during the most cold winter. He was like sleeping at night during the cold winter. It was really hard times that time. And Sylvester Stallone, he had that dog for 10 years. He got it in 1971. The dog, which I don't have in this cover, but he has the dog. But that time Sylvester Stallone was, like I said, very poor, and he had no money for food. So he had no choice, but he had to sell his dog for $40. And when he saw, because he didn't have the money for food for both of them, so he sold the dog for $40 to get some meat, to get a good meal. And when he saw the fight with Chuck Webner and Muhammad Ali, that inspired him to write his own story. And Sylvester Stallone, he wrote a story about, and he created Rocky. He created Rocky, because if you watch the movie, in Rocky's apartment, we see a poster, Rocky Marciano. So I guess Sylvester Stallone was inspired to choose the name from Rocky Marciano's Rocky. And he wrote a screenplay in 3 days, and he knocked on every door in studio and asked about if the studio would be interested in making this film. And no one was really interested at that time. Some studios were interested in the buying the script for him, but Sylvester Stallone insisted to play the lead role, but they were not convincing, so they didn't want him. I think some studios wanted Al Pacino, some they wanted Robert De Niro in the lead role, but Sylvester Stallone insisted to play the character that he created. So finally, United Artists bought the rights. They actually paid him. I forgot how much. I forgot how much Sylvester Stallone was already paid. I think he was. Around. I think he was around $30,000. He was paid for the role. But the studio, they actually went and they bought his screenplay, and they decide that they went by his terms in which he's gonna play the lead role. And the director was by John G. Avildsen. Rest in peace, John G. Avildsen. He directed the Karate Kid 1 and 2 and 3, which the Karate Kid is my favorite John G. Avildsen movie that he did. He directed Rocky, which with the Karate Kid and Rocky are actually his best sports films in my opinion. So Sylvester Stallone, when the studio paid him, he was looking for the dog, and he knows someone that knows the owner, and he tracked the owner down, and he asked to get the dog back, and the owner was insisting that Sylvester Stallone pays him $15,000, while Sly he sold his dog for only $40, but Sylvester Stallone paid him $15,000. And he got the dog back, and his dog has actually a role in the film in which he's Butkus. In the movie, you see that Adrian bought the dog, but actually Sylvester Stallone bought his dog himself. That's why it's right. It's written on the end of credits. Butkus Stallone Dog. But I love dogs. I have my own dog. Come here. I have my own dog. See, this is my own dog. I wouldn't sell my dog for $40, but I'll do the same as Sly, if I actually would have been very desperate, and I stand Sly that time, it was actually really, really hard time, as to retrospective review, so let's go to the story. Sylvester Stallone plays Rocky Balboa. He's a club fighter boxer. In his free time, he's working as a debt collector for a loan shark. Mr. Gazzo, played by Joe Spinell. Rest in peace. I think it's Spinelli or it's Joe Spinell. It's not right in this cover. I think it's Joe Spinell. Who played that slasher film Maniac in the 80s that was not interested in watching that film at all. But yeah, he works as a debt collector for loan shark or just mobster, Mr. Gazzo. In the meantime, he's actually a club fighter. He's fighting, he's boxing the clubs for the money. And just like his character, after we have a great opening scene, a great opening shot, with the logo Rocky, which flies by, with white stripes, it's in the black cover, white stripes says Rocky, and we see a great fight scene. And I think this movie inspired over a million people. Like if Rocky can do it, you can do it. It inspired a lot of movies. A lot of people inspired this movie, and that's one of the reasons why I think it's a masterpiece. It's the best Rocky in the series. People's favorite. It's my third favorite film. I love Rocky to death. His whole life was a million to one shot, which I actually agree with this title. I agree with this title. This is how Rocky looks like, through whole Philadelphia. He's actually in Philadelphia. He lives in Philadelphia. Like I said, in the open scene, he fights a club fighter named Spider Rico. I forgot the actor who played him, but he fought Spider Rico. And the second round, you can see Spider Rico gives actually punch him with his head, which I think that will be illegal, but he actually punched him with his head, and he really makes him a bloody wound from his eye, and like he will need a stitches. He punched them with the head. That will be illegal. And Rocky gets pissed and he goes in and knocks the living shit out of Spider Rico, but that was done for real. All the boxing matches you see in this movie were actually choreographed by Sylvester Stallone, and that was done for real. And like I said, Rocky is poor. He's a good. This movie has also heart. He's a good-haired person. He, like you said, he works on the dogs as a mob collector, actually a debt collector. He visits. He goes into Mickey's gym, played by Burgess Meredith. That's actually him. Played by Burgess Meredith. He plays Mickey. Actually, his last name is Goldmill, but that was in Rocky V. His last name, but he plays Mickey. Burgess Meredith, rest in peace. He also played the Penguin in Batman TV series back in the 60s. Anyway, when Rocky goes into the gym and he goes to the locker room, finds out his locker room has been replaced. He breaks the lock and finds his lock has been replaced. He goes. He actually asks the janitor where's Mick. The janitor tells him, yeah, he's in bad mood, so am I. He goes to him, asks him, how are you? What are you, a doctor? He's like, how are you? How can it's my locker, and says because Dipper is actually a good fighter and you aren't. And the guy was like, the boxer was provoking Rocky and says, oh, say, I love your rocker. And also Rocky also always, when you see he's an apartment, we see all the pictures of Sylvester Stallone when he was little. And Rocky's looking like in his mirror, he says he's nothing, he's a loser, everyone calls him a bum, which he isn't, But he keeps watching in the mirror and sees he's like nobody, No one wants to give him a chance. And Rocky also has two turtles. One is him Sling, the other one I think was Sing. I forgot the name, but we see all that, And so Rocky, he visits the pet store for his the food for the turtle, and he keeps flirting with this girl. He tries to win her heart. Adrienne, played by Talia Shire, which she did a great job. I mean, she was great. He's friends with her brother Paulie, played by Burgess Meredith. No, Burt Young. I apologize, Burt Young. Burt Young plays Paulie, brother of Adrienne. And Rocky's friends with Paulie. Paulie works in the meat store. He works as a butcher. In the meat locker. He works there. Or more meat shop, I'll just call it meat shop. He works in the meat shop. And meantime, on the other hand, the champion, world heavyweight champion, Apollo Creed, played by Carl Weathers from Predator, he's looking for a fight. He's looking to fight one of the best, his competitor, that's Green. But later turns out that Green broke his arm and he sustained injuries, so he can't compete. So now Apollo is looking for a new fresh meat, for a new challenger. And when he sees he decides he's gonna give unknown boxer a chance, a shot on his title, because no one will. And while he's looking for the match shots of the club fighters, he chooses Rocky Balboa because his nickname is the Italian Stallion. And Apollo says, no, I love the nickname. Who invented America? The Italians. That's going to be the best publicity for me. So I want him, I want the Italian Stallion. And the promoter says, look, I never heard about that. Rocky Balboa, I never heard of it. So they decide to make a biggest gig of his life on the Thanksgiving. That's actually this is gonna be in November in Philadelphia. And Sylvester Stallone, he brilliantly acts, writes, acts his character and his best shape of his life. And Rocky gets actually the biggest chance of his life. He's not gonna get the second chance. He Apollo sees his talent and he wants him as a contender. Actually, he's number one contender for the championships. For world for his title, for his biggest title. And Rocky decides that he's gonna takes the chance, to become his opponent. But he's not serious because he has no manager. He doesn't have anyone. He has no manager. But Rocky decides he's gonna take it serious because he gets a chance in his life. He got the chance of his life that he's not gonna get a second chance if he blew it. And Mickey, who is supposed to be a friend of Rocky, but treats him like garbage. He takes his locker room away. And he goes, and I also didn't like when Rocky repeats his sentence. He says, so this promoter's looking for me, and Mickey is cursing at him and yells at him and says, oh hey, so I already said that you dump greeder or something like that, and says, I came here for 6 years and I want to know why you picking on me. Why you picking on me? You don't know. Yeah, I want to know. You want to know? Yeah, I want to know. Because you had a chance to be a great fighter, but instead you became a leg breaker for a two-faced, low life shark. It's a waste of living. But just love that, And I love when Mickey shows up, he hears about the biggest fight of Rocky, and he goes to his apartment, and tries to offer him to be his manager, to be the trainer. And Rocky says, it took you a long time ago, 10 years to get to my apartment. I ask you for help, but you never heard of it. And Mickey goes, yeah, if you needed my help, why shouldn't you ask? I did. You never heard me, It took you long now to come here, my parents. What is this place? It stinks. That's right. It stinks. You're talking about your prime, Mick. Oh, my prime, Mick. Well, my prime, when I get there, I'll be there. I'll get this, I'll get that, I'm gonna get that, I just love that, when Rocky shouts on him and Mickey leaves, I love that, Works legs, working arms, legging, everything's working. You're talking about my prime. What about my prime, Mick? What about my prime, Mick? You wanna help me? Come on here. I'm sitting here. What's this place? Stinks! It stinks, this place! Stallone, fantastic, wrote the story. I love Stallone so much. Biggest fan, love Rambo films, love Demolition Man. I love Rocky films, I love his movies. Sylvester Stallone is a fantastic, he's like a king of the king. Just like Tom Cruise, but he's fantastic. Sylvester Stallone did pull it off, and Rocky goes after Mickey. He goes back, after Mickey, and he decides that he takes the help from Mick, which he gives him a chance, And meantime, when he already wants the heart of Adrian, they go on the ice ring. I forgot to mention the ice ring scene, and maybe some people think I think Rocky's actually training because he's riding, he's jogging on the ice rink with Adrian, but it looks like he's training, he's preparing for the fight of his life. And even if he didn't know, in my opinion, that's just my point of view, that's the reason why I'm doing a retrospective, my point of view, and a retrospective review, my in-depth review. That's the reason I'm doing. If you see other Rocky retrospective reviews, notice that I'm not a professional. I'm doing this for fun. I'm not paid. And I'm doing this for myself, because I love talking about movies, and I want to talk about Stallone, which I'll review a few of his movies. I reviewed all 4 Rambo films, and I'll talk about Rocky because it deserves it. Also, I will do my history with Rocky when I'm done with the story. So Rocky decides to go with the hard training. He's like 3 raw eggs. Wakes up in the 4 o'clock in the morning. It's like 3 raw eggs. That actually was it actually worked. The diet really worked because I read that Steven Seagal, for Under Siege, asked Robert De Niro for advice, and he recommended him to eat raw eggs, and that's what Seagal did, and that scene really worked. The reason why it's so good, this movie, why it's so great, why it's one of the greatest movies of all time, it's because it's all practical done. It's not CGI. That time they weren't CGI or effects. It's all practical done for real. And I love how they filmed and showed the real mean streets of Philadelphia at that time, and how hard time was Rocky Balboa doing, And Rocky starts training hard. He prepares for the fight. He goes in the meat locker. He starts punching the meat, And I wish that there would be that scene, but it isn't. But he keeps preparing for the fight of his life, and he runs, he jogs, he goes and jogs. We see, I love that the Bill Conti's music score, You're Gonna Fly Now. I love the Bill Conti's music score. I love when he goes, he runs the tracks, the train tracks. He runs, and we see the plant. We see how the factory is working, and I just love how John G. Avildsen make with the camera shots from Sylvester Stallone running, jogging around, and also Sylvester Stallone runs with his dog, Butkus Stallone. I love that scene. The beautiful music score by Bill Conti, and Sylvester Stallone. He trains hard. We see when he's jogging in the dog, and we see that the dogs. We see he's jogging, he's running faster to beat the ship, and I just really love that, and just show that he was like smoking, but he had to give out smoking because he was training, he was preparing. Mickey was training him. He also said, stay away from that girl from the pet shop. Women weaken legs. And he says, hey Mick, I really like that woman, that girl. Then she could train you. And I just love, Mickey's inspiration, how to train hard, how to prepare. And I love that Mickey was actually strict to Rocky. I love that, If he won't be strict, he wouldn't prepare him for the fight. And Rocky, the fight starts in 5 weeks. Rocky has only 5 weeks to prepare, So that's another thing that's so inspiration, and why it's such a cinematic, movie. And for the final fight, which I say entertaining, Rocky shows up, before the fight, he shows up in the boxing arena, and he sees the poster, and he says to promoter, something runs the poster, I wear white pants with red stripes, and the poster shows Rocky with red pants and white stripes in it, but Rocky wears those pants, and when the fight begins, before the fight, then the ring starts, when the bell starts in the ring, we actually see a real champion, Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier had a special guest appearance, and I think that how director John G. Avildsen did fantastic job, making one shot private footage from a real crowd. But Joe Frazier had a special guest star, and I think that Apollo Creed, played by Carl Weathers, did a fantastic job. He was dressed as a George Washington, while Rocky was actually wearing that robe for the meat shop. by his friend, by which he was making publicity for his friend Paulie. Paulie also he called the news station so that they actually filmed his training, his training method, how Rocky's training, like he's punching the meat in the meat, he's punching the meat. That was done for real. It was realistic. It's fantastic. So during the fight, we see Rocky knocking down, the first time he knocks the champ down, and it was actually 15 rounds. But it was, in my opinion, was a real boxing. A lot of people says the first fight is actually real boxing. It was a real boxing. It was choreographed by Sylvester Stallone. It was a real boxing. And Rocky is, like said, his whole life was 1,000,000 to 1 shot, which people thought that he's not going to last less than 2 rounds. But Rocky lasts all 15 rounds. He was never knocked down. He was never defeated. And by the finale, he lost the fight by split decision and by points. He lost the fight, and Apollo still remained the champ. But everyone knows that Rocky won the fight. In my opinion, Rocky is the winner. He won the fight. He lasted 15 rounds. He got the girl, which Eden goes to the rope, and Rocky says, "Where's your head?" And she goes, "I love you, I love you." She hugs him, and the movie, of course, ends. And yeah, so Rocky, in my opinion, is definitely the best. It's the best one of all 6. Actually, there are 8 Rocky films now. It got 5 sequels, 2 spin-offs, and I'll say none of them is better than this movie. But Rocky is a classic. I mean, look the back, Sylvester Stallone was sweating, he was training, he was working hard. I love the training sequence. Also, the last fight, I love the last fight. This is actually the ice rink with Rocky and Adrian, Mickey and Rocky training, and Rocky running. Love his. I actually love his costume, how he's dressed, in his clothes. I love the costume. I love the costume. The last fight. I mean, yeah. So my retrospective is actually the story. Some people say it's a fairy tale. I think it's actually a drama. It's actually one man who's no one knows, who's nobody. He goes through the distance in the ring, gives everything he has, everything he ever has, and he wins it all. Even though he didn't, he's not the champ. He's still the greatest champion ever. He's the champion in his heart. My retrospective review means is actually that this movie has heart. It has a great cast. I mean, we have like Sylvester Stallone, great performance, his best performance. Carl Weathers as Apollo, great performance. Talia Shire as Adrian, shy girl who Rocky wins her heart. Great actress, great babe in this movie. We also do have Burt Young's Paulie, Rocky's best friend, and of course the brother of Adrian. There's like an argument between when Rocky says what he wants from me, on Thanksgiving, and like I also love when Paulie goes and grabs the turkey, throws in the street, and says "Hungry Rock" and eats, or he goes with a baseball bat, starts smashing, and he says, "Why do I own you? I'm taking care of you. I'm cooking you. I'm washing your stuff. I'm cleaning for you. And why do I own you?" And he goes, damaged goods, and she goes and runs. And Rocky goes, grabs him, but he could have break him, but he doesn't want to, But I love the bond between between Paulie and Rocky in this movie. But yeah, it's just the training sequences by Bill Conti, Gonna Fly Now, is fantastic. It's excellent. It's a beautiful. This movie is beautiful. I also love what I appreciate about this film is how they make shots of the mean streets of Philadelphia. I don't know how it's now, but the mean streets of Philadelphia, how the time the 70s were, and it is actually during it was actually filmed during the winter. This movie was shot only 28 days. The budget was like only $960,000 only, but it made worldwide $117 million. Was released, I think was 20 November 1996. And like I said, it got 3 Academy Awards and it deserves it. It won 3 Academy Awards. Best editing, best sound, and best picture. It actually won, And also the cast, like I said, Sylvester Stallone, Burgess Meredith did a great job as Mickey Goldmilk. He was fantastic as trainer. I love the guy. I think they're a great team in this movie the first time. He did a great job. My opinion, which I say that Burgess Meredith carried the movie. Rest in peace, actor. Rest in peace, Butkus Stallone. I miss his dog. I mean, this movie has heart. And it actually, I think it has 8.1 on IMDb and deserves it. This movie is a classic. It's the best Rocky. In my opinion, it's the best Rocky. It's not my number 1 favorite, but it's actually my 3rd favorite Rocky film because I have a history with this film. The fight scenes, the jogging, when Rocky is jogging and someone throws in an apple, I love that scene. The jogging, or he jogs, through the bridge. He jogs on the docks, and we see he's outrunning the ship. He runs on those stairs. We see that statue, and we see like the sky. We see the cars driving. I mean, this is done for real. It was all realistic. This movie feels like a realistic, in my opinion. It's a portrayal of one man's story, one man's story. And I love Rocky because he's a good heart. He grabs this guy who was lying the street, brings him in the. He goes and brings him in the bar. This guy was owing $200 to Mr. Gazzo, and Mr. Gazzo ordered Rocky to break his thumb. He doesn't, but he takes $130 away from him, but he doesn't break his thumb, and the guy says Mr. Gazzo doesn't need to know. I don't know how Mr. Gazzo knows, but probably he has rats, he probably he has snitches around the town so that they know that Rocky did not break his thumb. And the driver keeps provoking Rocky, and Rocky says, I should broke your thumb. I should have broke your thumb. I love that scene. And I love that scene when Rocky turns around and walks and we see the snow, falling down, and we see those fences that Rocky walks that street. I love that scene. That's fantastic. It's great. I love the streets. I love the portrayal of Rocky Balboa. I love the character to that. I love the poster Rocky Marciano in Rocky's apartment. We see his 2 turtles. I love Rocky's apartment. His bed. He has no TV. He has no no telephone. He said actually disconnected because everyone keeps calling me all the time. And he lives in a small apartment. And he also, there's this girl, Maurice. She was later in Rocky Balboa, played by Jodie Letizia. Jodie Letizia is supposed to return as young Marie in Rocky Balboa, but she was fired. I don't know, she was preparing to came back, but she was fired, and Geraldine Hughes was cast instead. I don't know why, but young Marie, I think Jodie Letizia had a credit scene in Rocky 5, but she was deleted in that scene. But anyway, Rocky grabs that younger Marie and walks her, during the night. They go to the playground, and he walks her to the house and tells her that you're gonna be a whore. You're 12 years old now, you should not be smoking your yellow teeth. And Rocky tries to give her advice, and she says to him, hey Rocky, yo, screw you, creepo. And she makes like this, And Rocky says, yeah, who are you to give her advice? But I love that. And Rocky really, I will be really hurt and offended. I will feel like Rocky, I feel that pain. And someone says, screw you, creepo, to me, I will definitely feel that pain. But Rocky is a fantastic story, It's old-fashioned fairy tale, not fairy tale, but old-fashioned story, It's a brilliant relate to Jim in the depressed mood of the 70s. It's a beautiful movie. I forgot to mention, but this movie is also, this is the disc. It's a it's actually remastered version. Rocky Balboa remastered because Rocky was filmed with digital camera, but this is remastered. I know why Rocky 2, 3, 4, and 5 are not remastered. At least Rocky 4 could have been remastered. But this is the Blu-ray disc and the cover. Now my history with Rocky. I was 7 years old when my dad brought me the original VHS tape with Rocky, and I didn't know what Rocky was. I thought at the time Rocky's an action film, and I thought that there's gonna be a fist-to-fist fight. There's gonna be tons of explosions, actions, gunfights. But when I watched the logo, like Rocky with white stripes shows up, and there's like the open scene is a fight scene. But when I continue watching, I got bored with it because nothing except the first fight in the open scene didn't happen. Nothing happened in the film, so I threw it away. I was disappointed because I thought Rocky's an action film, but it wasn't. But later, I think a year later, my dad brought me Rocky 4. And I said, he brought me a blank VHS tape, which was Rocky 4 in it. And I said, Dad, I'm not gonna watch Rocky because the first time I tried to watch Rocky, I couldn't get into the film. And my dad said, he insisted, watch the movie. It's a good movie. So I watched Rocky 4, and Rocky 4 really inspired me to become a Rocky fan. And I rushed right away to watch Rocky 5. In that VHS store, they only had Rocky 4 and 5. So I watched Rocky 5, was disappointed in that film, but I loved Rocky 4. And I wanted to see the first movie. And this is actually was the fourth film the Rocky franchise I saw. My first Rocky movie was Rocky 4, which I saw complete. Then I saw Rocky 5, which I was disappointed at the time as a kid. Then the third movie was Rocky 3. And the fourth movie was Rocky 1. Rocky 2 was the fifth one. That time, the 90s, there were only 5 Rocky movies and 3 Rambo films. So that's one of the reasons, when I grew up, there wasn't Rocky Balboa. There were no Creed spin-offs. There was no Rambo 2008 or Rambo 4 or Rambo Last Blood, more Rambo Last Pieces. There wasn't those films, There are only 5 Rocky movies. Yeah, but that's actually my history. But I saw the logo in the open scene, open fight, choreographed by Stallone. Like Spider could give him a hat, and makes him a stitches right here, His eye was like he damaged his eye, and Rocky goes and breaks him. I love that open scene. I love that Rocky is actually, my retrospective is that Rocky is actually a club fighter. I love that he's a boxing club fighter. He goes in the club fights, destroys Spider Rico. Like Spider says, you're lucky. He wasn't lucky. You are lucky he stopped because he was pissed. You damage his eye and you piss him, And Rocky goes to the distance. By the final 14th round, goes and he punches in the ribs. He damages Apollo's ribs, and he stands the last round. He goes and stands the last round. And it was really bloody. The fight scenes are really bloody, very realistic. Sylvester Stallone choreographed all the fights are very realistic. Was very dangerous. It's the best fight, the best boxing fight in my opinion. It's just fantastic movie. It's a beautiful movie, directed by John G. Avildsen. John G. Avildsen was fantastic, and I love that his dog is in this film. Joe Spinell also did a good job as Mr. Gazzo. And I also love Rocky. He goes, he jogs on the ice skating with Adrian, but he's like preparing for the fight of his life that he doesn't know. I don't know what else to say about Rocky that already was said. It's a masterpiece. It's a cinematographic film. It's the masterpiece. It's an old-fashioned, brilliant movie. Of the 70s, and I just love the lines. It's a living. You became you became a leg breaker for a no good for nothing, two-faced scumbag low shark. It's a living. It's a waste of breathing, or it's a waste of living. Uh, oh my god, I just love the lines, the dialogues, the stuff that Sylvester Stallone put in it. I mean, Rocky is definitely my third favorite Rocky film because I have a history. As a kid, back in 1997, when I was actually 13 years old, they only, on my TV, they only gave Rocky 1, 2, and 3. I don't know why what happened to Rocky 4 and 5, but they only gave the first 3 movies. I don't know why. Maybe because they didn't like that Stallone went and killed off Apollo, and maybe they didn't like Rocky 4 and 5 the time, in my country. But we kids, we watched the Rocky trilogy, Rocky 1, 2, and 3. And yes, I have a history with the original Rocky, and I definitely have to say it's my third favorite film. I'm always gonna take it. And I know that this is the best film in the Rocky films. Yes, it's the best film. It's a lot of people's favorite Rocky films, favorite in the series, and I agree because it is the best. It's old-fashioned. It's great. It's brilliant. I love the settings. I love the mean streets of Philadelphia. The brilliant, excellent performance by Sylvester Stallone. And Rocky is an excellent story, excellent sports story about a boxer that goes through the distance. I just love that. It also has a love story message. If he can do it, you can do it. It inspired whole world. I mean, it's a classic. It's a classic. It's a brilliant classic, and I really recommend to see the first Rocky. I don't think that Creed is even that good as the Rocky. It's never gonna be good as Rocky. But anyway, that's my retrospective movie review on Rocky 1976. The best in the series. I hope you like and enjoy my review. And I'll see you for Rocky 2 because I can't wait for it to talk about the sequel. Anyway, I'm out. Peace.